Okay, welcome. Welcome, Mustafa. As you're aware, I am a change coach in life, work and business. It's a great pleasure to have your good company for this session. And we're going to go through some information, some content around mastering the mind, so you can become the best version of yourself. So then, how are you today?
Hello, Sunil. Thank you for this session. Yeah, I'm very good, thanks.
Fantastic.
I'm sure that the session that we will spend together will be very helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much indeed, Mustafa. I really appreciate your time. It's going to take about 20 minutes or so. So we're going to go through some content. Please feel free as I go through the information for you to just, raise your hand and just make a point. If anything resonates with you, from a change perspective, that you see, I never thought about that, or maybe I could make this change in my life, my work, my business, please do say. Is that all right?
Great, thanks.
Fantastic. Okay, right. So as you're aware, with the human mind, I mean, there are essentially three parts to it. We have our conscious mind, where we know where in the moment we normally see something, we perceive something, we feel it, and then we kind of act on what's happening really in front of our eyes, or just behind our eyes with the conscious mind. And then we have our subconscious mind, which is the bridge between the conscious mind and also the unconscious. And sometimes in the subconscious mind, maybe certain things that we've put way back in our conscious mind starts to nudge itself a little bit to give us a little bit of prompt, a little bit of nudging to make us think about things. And what comes to mind are things like shadows, for example, things in our past we might want to put aside, they've been stored in our unconscious mind and then nudging their way forward, trying to get attention. So that activity normally happens in the subconscious mind. Then in the unconscious mind, that essentially is going to be your hard drive. So that is your ultimate filing system, whereby you are able to then every single thought, emotion, feeling, memory that you've ever had throughout the whole of your life is actually being stored in your hard drive, in your unconscious. But there may be certain times in one's life, it could be an external situation, or it could be something happening in your life at the moment that then triggers it to then enter the subconscious, which then nudges its way into your conscious mind. And so tell me this then, Mustafa, when we're talking about conscious mind, subconscious mind, and unconscious mind, are you able to give me an example of, for example, what do you think might be in your unconscious mind, subconscious mind, and your conscious mind?
Certainly. Actually, I was keeping my questions to the very end, but
Okay.
since since you have asked, I just now summarize
Yeah,
my understanding of conscious, subconscious, and underconscious mind.
yeah.
But I will still have questions at the very end.
Okay.
Conscious mind is how I feel now, how I am aware of things.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if I am touching my coffee cup, that's my conscious decision. I'm touching it.
Yeah.
But um, subconscious is, in my opinion, is a kind of a gatekeeper.
Yes.
It has a gatekeeping activity between conscious and underconscious. Unconscious,
Yeah.
not underconscious. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Unconscious mind is, in my opinion, what it is that everything we have experienced from, let's say, from the our birth, time of birth, until now.
Yeah.
But if we section our lives in every 10 years or every 5 years, we would have what experiences we had in the past, let's say secondary school, primary school years, or preschool years, they are all stored in our unconscious mind,
Yes.
and
Yes.
and sometimes they are hindrance, sometimes they are good source for us.
Yes. Absolutely.
Hindrance they are
Yes.
because if we had a negative experience at some stage in our lives, and it is quite horrific,
Yes.
then later in life it can affect our
Ab-
motives, our actions, basically.
yes,
Is that
absolutely.
is that enough?
That's excellent. That's brilliant. That's a really good understanding there you've got. And it's true, isn't it, that, you know, if we are not aware of the dimensions of the whole mind, the unconscious and the subconscious and the conscious mind, then we won't be able to operate at our optimal best, because everything that we do is all working from the mind. And if we don't understand how the mind works and how we can make the most of our mind and how we can also avoid making decisions, you know, for example, particularly, I'm just thinking, Mustafa, with the coronavirus pandemic, we were all in a lockdown situation. And again, that may be triggering lots of things that have been dormant in one's unconscious mind and maybe producing fear. Then it's nudging its way, as you said, the gatekeeper, the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind actually begins to create our reality. And sometimes if we are thinking that our reality is what happened to us in the past, because it's triggered by our fear from the anxiety from the pandemic, then it affects our conscious mind in terms of what we do and what actions we undertake. So everything we experience in our life, whether it's past, present, future, in our adult life particularly, is really a reflection of what's going on in our subconscious mind. And I find that as a coach, sometimes it's really important to help clients to be at ease with themselves, be in a place of calm and peace, a state of equilibrium, sometimes achievable through hypnotherapy, sometimes through guided meditation. That way, they're then able to understand what is happening inside and what's motivating them to make this choice or that decision. So, for example, some people may be thinking, well, I've got all this free time. I might as well sleep as many hours as I can, eat whatever I want, drink whatever I can, because then when I get back to work, I'll just get back to what I was in you know, before the virus started. But then again, if we're putting on weight or we are becoming very, you know, lack of energy, lack of motivation, then obviously we have to question, well, why is it then your reaction to fear, anxiety is to eat or to smoke or to drink? So it's like some underlying thing there that is not being addressed. So, and these things, I think a lot of people will be finding during the pandemic is their subconscious mind is actually on fire. There's lots of things there's a lot of interaction going on between the conscious world and the unconscious. And in many people, it's causing lots of conflict. It's causing excessive anxiety, heightened anxiety, excessive stress. That's also affecting people's eating habits and also their sleeping patterns as well. So now is a really good time in anyone's personal history to actually be able to understand the mind and how it works and to find out what's actually going on. Now, it is really important for anyone to be able to master the mind is to take responsibility for your reality. Okay? So take responsibility for your reality. So whatever one's reality is, then it is a reflection of something that you felt, you've experienced yourself, an emotional reaction, but it is essentially something that has happened. And whatever's happened, whether you did it internally or it happened to you externally, one has to take responsibility. Now, for example, I know lots of people have lost their jobs or they're being furloughed or they've had to access government support because it's affected their businesses. Now, even though it's not their fault, okay, they did not cause the coronavirus pandemic, but still, situation is there's no job, there's limited funds. So we've got to take responsibility for that situation, work with what we've got, try and look at the positives and see if there's any opportunity that comes out of difficulty. And I know a famous phrase from Albert Einstein, even where there's difficulty, there's opportunity. And sometimes when I go through my own life history, where I've had to end, my job came to an end and then I had to start a new one, And I felt that when my job came to an end, I was made redundant. Then I felt, what? I don't understand. I put my whole life and soul and energy and spirit into this job, and then it's been taken away. But I have to take responsibility that I was the one who chose that job, and maybe in retrospect, maybe I should have moved on to something else before it happened. But now it's happened. I'm going to sit with the unpleasant feelings, and I'm going to try and work out exactly what my strengths are, and give myself some personal recovery time, and then see with a calm mind, allow my intuition to speak, let my whisper speak, and calm my ego down. Because sometimes my ego says, oh, you have to get a better job, more money, better car, blah, blah, blah. And that's the ego speaking. And then you've got to also listen to your, for me, through the intuition is like an inner voice. And for me, I don't know whether you want to share this for yourself, Mustafa, but for me, the inner voice is my intuition. And it normally speaks to me through my subconscious mind, because it's reflecting back to something in my unconscious in the past and what your reality is now. And it's giving me a nudge. It may be someone's name,
Wow.
it may be a strategy, it may be an action, but it's literally, I may be making the breakfast and suddenly a voice comes through my head. It's really weird. Do you kind of relate to that? Do you have a whisper sometimes? Do you get a whisper in your head?
At times, when I cast my mind back to something that happened in the past, I just get a reminder kind of thing.
Yeah.
And this often, for example, there was a point when I came to the UK, I desperately wanted to study shipping communication.
Yes.
And that was the reason why I came here for. But it didn't happen.
Yes.
And I ended up at the university doing different things. And it's quite often I get this whisper that, what if? What I could have been a shipping master. Sorry, not shipping master, more powerful than the shipping master. Shipmaster. So this is what I quite often I feel it.
That's interesting. What if? That's a very, very two little words, but they're very powerful, aren't they? What if? Because it makes you think.
Yes. Yeah.
What if I had made a different choice? But then you also have to think, well, what state was it? What emotional, mental state was I in at that time when I actually chose this direction? Was there a necessity, a requirement? Did you have responsibilities that made you choose one route and not the other?
Yes. What it is, emotionally, I was in turmoil. Because I had first thing, I couldn't go to university, and then I was thinking time is passing and I'm still buggering about.
Time is another one, isn't it? Yes.
So then
not enough time. We've got to make the most.
I changed location. And Newcastle had become my lifeline. It altered me spiritually. Newcastle, as a city, as a town with good universities, changed my look, because eventually I studied there. But it is a necessity, the feeling of young, but it is not forever. But at the time, your options are getting smaller and narrower all the time.
Absolutely. That's a really, really fabulous insight you've offered, because I'm sure lots of viewers are going to be relating to what you're saying, where, when they ask the what if question, but it's fine, ask the what if, but don't kind of wallow in disappointment, because you were guided by your best self at that time, and also your circumstances. Sometimes circumstances push us in a direction that we probably know is not aligned to what our true purpose is, but then we have to think practically. We have to think with our head as well as our heart, in terms of what's going to be best for me and maybe other people in our lives. So thank you very much for sharing that. Now, again, a bit more about the unconscious mind, and then how the subconscious mind works, really. With the unconscious mind, it's there to really essentially to sometimes protect us, keep us in a comfort zone, and so is that we don't feel rejected, so which is why sometimes our unconscious mind helps us to be safeguarded. But then it's also, for example, if something negative happened to someone and they just push it back in their unconscious mind, I want it to stay there, because if I made it more subconscious and more conscious, if I'm triggered by something, I'm going to get angry, stressed, depressed. I may hurt myself, I may hurt someone. So the safest place for that memory to be is on the unconscious. But if you haven't processed it properly, if you've not allowed the amygdala part of the brain that processes, and normally people who go through trauma or post-traumatic stress syndrome will find that they haven't allowed that horrible, horrible memory to be processed so you have full understanding, and it all gets stored for your own safety and unconscious mind. Well, it's about knowing what the best thing to do. I know for me personally, I mean, I'm 51 now, but when I was 45, I went through something what we call like a midlife crisis. So all my past things that I wanted to put away, they all came back. It was like, Mustafa, my life was being checkmated. I was being checkmated. I was being forced to re-examine all my moves, and the Queen was checkmating me to make sure that before you move on to the next half of your life, you reevaluate, do all the necessary work you need to do, process what you haven't processed. Because what it is if you haven't processed things and they're stored in your unconscious mind, then the unconscious mind will dump everything like dirty washing at the amygdala, which is like a washing machine. And it'll force you then, it'll stop you in your tracks. It'll force you then to start doing the washing and doing the processing. So the quicker we can regularly check in with ourselves and process things and sit with unpleasant feelings and memories, so we understand exactly what the purpose of them were, if there was a purpose to them, that way then we can manage things more effectively. Now, the actual subconscious mind actually is, as I mentioned before, it's our reality. But it's also where the superconscious, when we talk about conscious mind and superconscious mind is basically, it's a combination of our intuition and creativity and imagination, which if we can try to use that to the best of our ability. So I'll repeat again: intuition, creativity, and imagination. So ICI, intuition, creativity, and imagination. That can be a fabulous resource for us to use, but for us to be able to use it appropriately to do whatever we want to do, whether we want to create a website, create a new online business, we want to buy a new house, we want to be able to, educate our children, we want to be able to, get fit, lose weight, whatever it might be, stop smoking. We've got to be able to fully activate our superconscious mind, okay, which is the bridge between the unconscious mind and the conscious mind. And it's that where you mentioned power, a lot of where the true power is potentially is. And if we don't access the intuition, if we don't do the clearage, and we don't kind of, sort out our issues and calm the ego down and deal with our negative stuff from the past, then we're not going to be in a position to use our super conscious mind. And if we start living more intuitively rather than emotionally, because when we live emotionally, we tend to live more reactively. But if we live intuitively, there's an opportunity to use a subconscious mind and the superconscious mind, and actually to be able to access the power of our intuition that can give us positive messages, clear directions, maybe protocols on what we need to do to be able to become the best version of ourselves, to be the happiest, the most blissful, joyful, abundant, selves, because otherwise, if we are living our lives more emotionally than intuitively, then there is a risk that we could be entertaining all the things that are coming at us negatively, like through the pandemic, and then also unresolved issues in our subconscious mind. Then there's going to be a bit of a a cocktail going on there. So I'm not saying don't be emotional. I mean, I get emotional. I mean, if something is hard hitting on the news, I'll start, my eyes will well up. But it's about living. You can be emotional, but living emotionally, you got to think, well, is that serving me? Could I be balanced with more living intuitively and using that imagination? And sometimes for me, I mean, let me explain to you how I activate my superconscious mind. I like to be still. I use a chill seeker breathing technique where to be calm, I would breathe in to a count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and breathe out to a count of 5. I'll get into a regular breathing state, close my eyes. I'll go into a meditative state, even for a minute or 5 minutes, and I'll try and get them. I'll be seeing those dark clouds of doubt, fear, anxiety, and trying to see myself flying through my subconscious mind, creating a blue sky thinking, and then seeing what I can see there and allowing my intuition to speak. Really, really, really powerful. The issue for all of us, particularly around the pandemic, is that, if we were addicted to survival beforehand, we're even more so now because we're gripped by the fear of us getting sick or our loved ones getting sick, or even worse. I mean, there's so many people still contracting this awful disease and also dying from it as well, that are naturally. So at the moment, we might be thinking, well, is this the best time for us to think about greatness because we're in extreme survival mode? Well, it may well be that greatness is maybe a longer term objective, but if we can start thinking more intuitively, even though we are in a survival mode, I think it would be really, really helpful just to take a few steps to be able to do that. And as well as being in meditative state, I also like to write things down, be it in a journal or be it in a book of some sort. And I mean, this is my little notebook where I just keep all my little notes on, observations or gratitude or my whisper. I like to sometimes download the language of the whisper and write it in my book so I can marshal with it and cogitate on it. So to be able to then see, well, what is my intuition telling me to do? And have you heard of the expression that the pen writes by itself? When you're really in the zone and you're developing something, some content, or you're writing a letter or something.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And then the pen, and you know what that means for me, Mustafa? What that means is that my intuition has taken a grip of the pen, and what's being downloaded is directly from my superconscious. So my creativity is flowing through with the help of my intuition. But the thing is, though, the challenge is that operating within one's superconscious, particularly in these challenging times, it is going to take lots of work and courage. It's not easy because, like the moment, we all want comfort, we all want security, and I'm no different. I don't want to, when I'm going shopping outside, I make sure I got my mask on and my scarf, I'm wearing my hat, anorak, I'm completely covered, my hands are covered, because I don't want to catch this, because I want to be well, I want others to be well, I want to do my bit for social distancing as well and help everybody else. But I know I still have a lot more to offer. I still want to be able to pursue my dreams and my hopes. I don't want the coronavirus to hold me back. So it's going to take more work, which means I'm going to have to turn on the courage tap a bit more and use my intuition to an even higher level, so I can still, think about what I want to achieve in my life and to be able to work towards that, and so on and so forth. Okay then, right, so Mustafa, that is basically bringing us to the end of this first segment around mastering the mind. So are there any observations or any key questions you'd like to add before we close out the segment?
I have I have observations and I have questions.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Shall I start now or
Yes,
talk
yes,
to you
of course.
later?
Of course. If you start now, do you want to start off with the
Okay.
observations that will be more immediate?
Observations first, yes.
Yeah.
I would think understanding mind and understanding conscious, subconscious, and underconscious better if there were examples like this. For
Yes.
example, if you take me as a sort of a person unaware of those areas
Yeah.
first,
Yeah.
uh, what motivations are, etc., and doing something, what I would do, you ask me questions. This, this is untapped. I am untapped.
Mm,
Now you
that's
tap
good.
me,
Mm,
and
yes.
then you tell me, look, your conscious is 20% of your whole mind.
Yeah.
Your unconscious is 80%. There
Yeah.
is in between the gatekeeper, subconscious. How you motivate yourself through fear or excitement, you need to knock your unconscious door. But
Yes.
subconscious will allow you to do this or not. Then you need to have a dealing with your subconscious. If you if you make a clear distinction between those areas and tell me how, without alerting a person, how his or her conscious works, and after alerting that person how it works, if you make clear comparisons and then interaction between those three sections, again, untapped and tapped, uh, if you make clear distinctions, then the your mentoring will be rocketed up.
So then
It,
start becoming aware of the different dimensions of the mind. Is that what you're saying? Become more
yes,
aware of them
yes,
and the power of each of them.
absolutely, yes.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Also, if you sort of summarize individually how each area works by itself and in tandem with all together, if you uh, tell the mechanic about mechanics of it and then examples, then that will be really great stuff.
Yeah.
That
Brilliant.
will benefit me more. That's how I could say.
That's brilliant. Okay. Right. And did you have any final questions before we close out the segment?
My final question is you talk about conscious and unconscious and subconscious, but I think there should be also some involvement of rational and irrational thinkings,
Yes.
how they mechanize themselves, how they become mechanics of those those three mind areas.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
And
obviously it's wide
where do you
and
think irrational thinking comes from? Where do you think it comes from? Where it's irrational?
irrational thinking is opposite to intuitive thinking.
Hmm.
Uh, irrational thinking comes from, I mean, there is,
Do you think it's more
I think,
ego related? Do you think it's ego related?
uh, I have a better answer to that.
Mm.
We have status, we have conscious and, sorry, we have rational and irrational thinking centers.
Yeah.
They, they both come from same areas. They are independent of each other. Sometimes they work with each other together. Sometimes they fight with each other.
Yeah.
But our ego, experience, and ability to imagination compass, how wide and how narrow it is, they are the determining factors of our rational and irrational thinking. But
Mm.
when you said, for example, intuitively, do your life intuitively, what you are saying is uh, rationalize your irrational animal
Yes.
side. That's what you're saying.
And for me, yes. And another bit of context here is I sometimes think that the ego probably has about 80% of the space, and then 20% is intuition initially. But what I try to do now is I try and make the intuition far more bigger and superior and more dominant, because that's what's serving me
Yeah,
well, rather than listening to my ego all the
yeah.
time.
This is where our differences are coming from. I am an animal man. I am irrational. I love irrationality.
Well,
Irrationality
we have
is,
lots of stimulating debates, don't we?
yes, irrationality. If we understand history from irrational perspectives, we make this world a lot better.
Yeah, interesting. That's great.
Uh,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Marvelous stuff. And I just wanted to point out as well is that, as you mentioned earlier about, let's having a better understanding of these dimensions. I just wanted to mention that within the modalities that I've been trained in, which is NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and also life coaching, transformational coaching, as well as hypnotherapy and emotional freedom technique, particularly with NLP, that is another way that you can try to reprogram, to have a better understanding of your reality in your subconscious mind, but also to try to reprogram what's been hardwired. So if you're hardwired to react in certain ways that don't serve you, in terms of how you might react very angrily at the slightest thing because of something that is locked inside your unconscious mind, then if you know it causes you harm and issues for you and for the people as well around you in your circles, then NLP could be helpful, or hypnotherapy with its suggestibility properties could actually help you to start to reprogram your mind. I know when I went through my own midlife thing, it was mostly to do with mindfulness. For me, mindfulness brought the camel's back, where I began to understand all parts of myself and how my mind actually worked in the past when I was checkmated at 45. And in some respects, Mustafa, do you think that just to finish out really, that the coronavirus pandemic has actually checkmated all of us? We've all been forced into a review situation, a mid-review situation, to check, to re-examine all our moves up until now, and whether we need to go a different direction, or can we go a different direction with what the reality is going to be for all of us, with restrictions or no restrictions. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, it really, this pandemic has dehumanized us.
Yeah. Yes. Some may
because,
say free society.
Because it now, if there is a person coming from opposite direction towards you, you take your guard and you take a few steps sideways or whatever.
Yeah.
And if somebody is behind you or in front of you, you check distance all the time, whether you are close or not close.
Yeah.
So this is in the long run, if this continues, it will cause people developing new habits and new norms.
There is an opportunity to be able to reevaluate our values, our norms, and what we normally would stand for, and whether they've been serving us, or can they serve us in this unprecedented time that we're all living in our human history.
This will strangle our irrational side more, and the more rational we become, the less we enjoy our presence in this world. The less we will enjoy ourselves, because we become more rational, and rationalizing everything is not a good thing.
It's so interesting, because I've noticed every time I go to the shops that the atmosphere is a lot more quieter. People are not freely speaking as well as they used to. They are essentially watching everybody else, because to make sure that the distance, Mustafa, I've really noticed that it's very noticeable now that people are very, very, and they don't want to be guarded. They obviously want to have a chat, a talk, or be friendly, but everybody is wary of everybody else when we're queuing up, or we're just walking past somebody in the park. I mean, even if I go to my local park for my daily walk, as soon as somebody sees me, they'll walk the other way. And if I see them, I walk the other way. So this wouldn't happen ordinarily. Normally, I'd probably have a chat with the dog owner and pat the dog's back or something, you know, as you probably would normally do, but can't do that anymore now. So you, in a way, I agree with you. It's a shame.
Where it starts,
Yeah,
you start queuing in front of the supermarket. That
yeah,
happens in London,
yeah.
and then you keep your distance, and you also become vigilant in case somebody is jumping the queue. So
Yes, everybody. I didn't realize when I was going to a hardware store in my local town, I didn't realize that the queue extended over the other aisle. So what I thought, I was joining the queue, but actually it was a midpoint. It was, and then someone said, "Excuse me, my friend, there's about 10 people behind him." I thought, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I tell you, he he could have got quite angry, but I didn't mean to jump the queue. I just thought that was the start of the queue. It was like a crossroad
yeah,
situation.
but
And then I quickly, keeping my distance, went right to the back, and everyone was looking at me as if I'd committed a massive crime.
yeah, let me tell you this: how it affects the mind, because
Yeah,
you then want to speed up your things and do your shopping as quick as you can, and then get out of it.
absolutely.
Get
In
out.
and
So
out.
it is no longer a place for sort of socializing,
No,
or you don't think social aspect. You
can't
think your
relax.
own safety. You think this virus is behind your neck all the time, and you just want to grab your stuff and go out,
Well,
and also
absolutely.
less interaction with others.
Absolutely. And you know what,
Uh,
Mustafa? 8 weeks ago when the lockdown started, it was so alien to me to wear a mask, cover my face, you know, to wear gloves when I'm shopping. I never ever done that in my whole life. And I have to say, the first week shopping caused me so much anxiety that I had to do guided meditation. I thought, my God, shopping was never this stressful because of the social distancing and then having to be aware of being covered up so I don't, I don't catch anything. I mean, I've never had to do this. But then again, what it's forced me to do now, I'm more comfortable with it now because I've sat with it and I've made it part of my my weekly practice rather, when I go shopping. So I turned it into a routine. So it makes it much more acceptable. But you know what? I've had to rationalize it, but it's not fun, but I've had to
yeah.
rationalize it. Okay, then,
Okay.
Mustafa, we're going to be finishing off now. I'm looking forward to the next segment with you. Take care, my friend. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you, sir.